Arthur Schopenhauer was one of the boldest philosophers to speak about human nature, and his ideas about women were so controversial that many still avoid them today. He believed that if men understood certain truths about female psychology, they would no longer be easily deceived or manipulated. And that's why, as the title says, women do not want you to find this video. Schopenhauer's perspective wasn't about hatred. It was about clarity. He stripped away illusions and forced men to look at relationships without the comforting lies society tells us. His insights show why men often give away their power, why they suffer in silence, and why they must learn to see women as they truly are, not as they imagine them to be. The uncomfortable truth is this: women are not attracted to weakness, dependence, or blind devotion. They are drawn to strength, control, and self-respect. Schopenhauer argued that once men realize this, they stop begging for affection and start living with dignity. This shift changes everything, because the man who knows the game no longer plays it blindly. So let me ask you, do you think most men today truly understand what women respect and desire, or are they still living under illusions? Share your thoughts in the comments and stay with me, because in this video, we'll uncover Schopenhauer's hidden lessons that every man must face. Arthur Schopenhauer was not afraid to confront truths that others avoided. While most philosophers of his time wrote about ideals of love and harmony, he dissected the raw instincts behind human behavior. His honesty about women shocked society then, and still makes people uncomfortable today, because he dared to strip away illusions men prefer to believe. Schopenhauer argued that women, like men, are ultimately driven by survival instincts. Their choices are rarely about abstract ideals, but about security, strength, and the ability to ensure stability for themselves and their children. In his view, men delude themselves when they believe women are attracted to them solely for kindness or affection. What women truly respond to, he claimed, is power, confidence, and self-control. This perspective sounds harsh, but it explains many realities men face. How often do we see nice guys who give endlessly and never demand respect left behind, while men with strength and boundaries are admired? Schopenhauer's honesty forces us to confront that attraction is not about words, but about instincts that are older than society itself. To him, the problem was not women's nature, but men's illusions. Men often project their fantasies onto women, expecting them to be perfect symbols of love and devotion. When reality doesn't match the fantasy, men feel betrayed. Schopenhauer simply reminded us, stop imagining, start observing. Modern psychology echoes this. Studies on attraction show that confidence, status, and self-mastery consistently rank above mere kindness or generosity. Schopenhauer's brutal honesty aligns with what science now confirms. Attraction is pragmatic, not purely romantic. So let me ask you, do you think most men today are still blinded by illusions about what women want? Or are they ready to face the raw truth Schopenhauer revealed? Share your reflections in the comments, because accepting this reality is the first step to reclaiming your power. Schopenhauer observed that most men enter relationships full of hope and affection, but many end up losing themselves in the process. Why? Because they surrender their power too easily. Instead of leading with strength and principles, they compromise endlessly, trying to keep the peace or earn approval. In doing so, they stop being respected. When a man becomes dependent on a woman for his happiness, attention, or validation, he gives her control. At first, she may enjoy the devotion, but over time, it erodes attraction. A man who cannot stand on his own 2 feet is no longer seen as a leader but as someone who follows. Schopenhauer warned that this imbalance leaves men weak and vulnerable. Consider the pleaser type of man. He avoids conflict, always says yes, and sacrifices his needs to keep her happy. It seems noble, but in reality it signals insecurity. Women may tolerate this at first, but eventually they lose interest because respect is the foundation of attraction, and respect cannot exist without boundaries. In contrast, a man who maintains his independence and self-respect never has to beg for love. He gives affection, but never at the cost of his dignity. He listens, but does not compromise his core values. This balance of strength and care is what women instinctively admire. Schopenhauer would argue that it's not love that men lack. It's the ability to stay strong inside it. Modern psychology calls this dynamic dependency imbalance. Relationships where one person gives up too much power rarely last. The partner who loses power also loses attraction, while the one who maintains balance commands respect. Schopenhauer identified this long before psychology gave it a name. So here's the question. In your relationships, do you hold on to your independence? Or have you been guilty of giving away your power in the name of love? Share your answer in the comments, because learning to protect your dignity may be the single most important lesson you'll ever master. Schopenhauer believed that one of the greatest traps men fall into is the illusion of romantic love. Society teaches men to idealize women, to see them as perfect beings who will complete them, and to believe that love is always pure and selfless. But Schopenhauer argued that this fantasy blinds men to the realities of human nature, and it is why so many suffer disappointment. To him, romantic love was less about eternal happiness and more about instinct. He claimed that much of what men think of as love is actually nature's way of ensuring reproduction and survival. In other words, men project deep meaning onto what is, at its core, a biological and psychological drive. When they confuse instinct for idealism, they set themselves up for heartbreak. Think about how many men fall in love quickly, give away everything, and expect loyalty in return, only to find that desire fades. They blame women, but Schopenhauer would say the real problem is their illusion. They placed unrealistic expectations on love, hoping it would save them, instead of seeing it for what it is. A powerful force, but not a perfect one. This doesn't mean love is meaningless. It means men must approach it with clarity, not delusion. A relationship built on fantasy is fragile. One built on respect, discipline, and truth is lasting. Schopenhauer warned that when men idolize women, they hand away their power. When they see women as human, flawed, complex, and instinct-driven, they protect themselves from disillusionment. Modern psychology echoes this idea with the concept of romantic idealization. Studies show that when people place their partners on a pedestal, disappointment is inevitable. Reality never matches the fantasy. Those who approach relationships with realistic expectations, however, report stronger, healthier connections. So let me ask you, are you building your relationships on reality? Or are you still chasing the illusion of a perfect love that doesn't exist? Share your reflections in the comments, because facing this truth will save you from the heartbreak most men never see coming. Schopenhauer argued that women are not drawn to men who surrender themselves completely, but to those who carry strength and self-respect. He believed that a man who values himself will naturally command respect from others, while the man who constantly gives without boundaries loses both respect and attraction. This insight explains why so many nice guys are overlooked, while men who project strength often become irresistible. Strength here is not brute force, it is composure, confidence, and the ability to stand firm. A man who remains calm under pressure, who doesn't react to every provocation, and who leads with quiet authority shows a kind of power that women instinctively recognize. Schopenhauer would say that this balance of control and presence separates men who are admired from men who are pitied. Self-respect is equally vital. If a man tolerates disrespect, lies, or betrayal without consequence, he communicates weakness. But a man who draws clear boundaries and enforces them without anger communicates value. Women may resist in the moment, but deep down they admire the man who refuses to compromise his dignity. Look at history and even literature. The men admired most are those who carried strength in both principle and action. They weren't desperate for approval. They stood by their values even when it cost them something. That ability to stay unshaken is what inspires loyalty and desire. Modern psychology confirms this as well. Studies on attraction consistently show that women value confidence and self-assuredness more than wealth or looks. What they respond to is the feeling of safety and admiration that comes from a man who respects himself first. So let me ask you, do your actions show strength and self-respect, or are you giving them away to please others? Share your thoughts in the comments because learning to embody these traits is the foundation of lasting respect and attraction. Schopenhauer believed that most men lose themselves in relationships not because women demand it, but because men willingly hand over their dignity. They chase approval, beg for love, and compromise their values, hoping it will win them affection. In the end, they feel trapped and resentful. To break this cycle, men must reclaim their dignity and with it their freedom. The first step is self-awareness. A man must recognize where he has been giving too much of himself away, whether through constant people-pleasing, fear of rejection, or dependence on validation. Without acknowledging these habits, he cannot change them. Schopenhauer's warning was clear. Illusions blind men, but truth sets them free. The second step is boundary setting. A man with no boundaries is like a kingdom with no walls, easily invaded and quickly destroyed. Boundaries are not about aggression. They are about protecting what matters. When a man calmly enforces his limits, he communicates strength. Women may test those boundaries, but deep down, they respect them. The third step is living with purpose. Men who dedicate their energy entirely to pleasing women lose sight of their own goals. But men who focus on growth, discipline, and contribution live fuller lives and, ironically, become far more attractive. Schopenhauer would argue that freedom comes not from chasing others, but from building yourself. Modern psychology echoes this with the idea of self-differentiation. The healthiest relationships are those where both people maintain independence while choosing to share life together. Dependence creates weakness, independence creates respect. So let me ask you, are you living as a man who begs for approval or as one who stands tall with dignity and freedom? Share your reflections in the comments because the choice you make will determine not only how women see you, but how you see yourself. Schopenhauer's words may sound uncomfortable, even brutal, but that's exactly why they matter. He forced men to face truths that society often hides. Women are not drawn to weakness, romantic illusions lead to disappointment, and respect begins with self-respect. These lessons are not meant to make you bitter. They are meant to make you stronger, wiser, and free. When you stop giving away your dignity, when you set boundaries, and when you lead with strength, everything changes. You no longer beg for attention, you attract it. You no longer fear rejection, you embrace it as part of growth. And most importantly, you stop living under illusions and start living in reality. That is where true power lies. So let me ask you, which of Schopenhauer's lessons spoke to you the most? His honesty about women, the danger of illusions, or the call to reclaim your dignity? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you stayed until the end, write seductive wisdom, so I know you're one of the men ready to face the truth and rise above illusions.